Hey there, it's Ryan Reynolds, and you are listening to Fearless in Devotion, the absolute worst podcast in all of football history. Go get them, guys.
Here they come, a mighty champions.
Christ on all, and welcome to the latest episode of the Fearless in Devotion podcast. We have Tim Edwards, we have Liam Randall, we have Andy Gilpin, and myself, Andrew Pollard, on this Fat Boar sponsored podcast. Fat Boar in Mullin Wrexham, Hill Street Social, the Mice Gwyn Hall, FA's the Carnivore, the Buck in Bangor, and the Croyce Howell. Andy, I know you're up in Pennakai at the moment, and you may not have your usual stuff with you, but do you have a newsletter to pop up at this point in time?
Oh, I do actually. Give
There
me
we
a
go.
second. And
It's not like we do it at the beginning of every single podcast, no?
yeah, you're absolutely right.
As
As
I
I
was
say,
interested in your thumbnails last week, by the way, on your
yeah, weren't they?
yeah,
There's nothing on there.
they'll have been mysteriously cleaned now, though. Oh, for anyone on audio, Andy Gilpin is loading a. Oh no! No! I think we've killed Andy Gilpin. Andy Gilpin is dead. Long live
Right.
Andy
Okay.
Gilpin.
Am I dead?
Yeah, you are. Use the black screen, mate. That's all. So this makes for great audio entertainment. So while you're diddling away,
Fizzling away. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
I mean, is that why you put your screen on blank? I don't know. But let's get to while Andy sorts out the newsletter. Let's get to our first.
It's not happening, right? We're going to put a link in, and
Okay.
you can just. But it's £15 basically. We brought it back for £15 for your first year. You get a lot of good stuff from that, and no one's slagging it off this week, which is a first. Where is Reese? Where is Angry Reese? Being angry somewhere.
He's in the land of no Wi-Fi by all accounts, even more so than normal from what he was saying today. So yeah, Reese, I'm sure we'll be back next week.
And I also apologise for not having a proper microphone because I'm up to see my mum and dad, and I haven't brought my microphone with me. So
No, not good enough, mate. I'm waiting for that. I live on those angry YouTube comments about what's going on with Gilpo's microphone. How unprofessional is he with his little teacup there? But our first topic of the day, as it was last week and then the week before as well. Welcome to Wrexham, season 4, episode 5. Anything's possible. Some reaction to this. I mean, there was so many great things touched upon. I mean, one of the main themes was loss and basically time coming to an end in terms of players who maybe move on, players who've moved on. The biggest takeaway from me though was obviously the great job that I thought they did in paying tribute to Arthur Massey, who passed away 100 years of age, one of the Wrexham's greatest fans. And it was very, as is so often the case with this documentary, it was so classily done. It was very emotional. It was just a really poignant tribute. So I think that's a really good place to start. Tim, do you want to chime in on this?
Yeah, I mean, I watched it yesterday, and nobody prepared me quite enough for what was to come. And I watched it again about 2 hours later, and the tears were still on the same levels for the Arthur segment. I mean, if I went somewhere in the world and tried to explain what Welcome to Wrexham was, I would show them that clip. I wouldn't mention the fact it's to do with football. The way they did that, the editing of it, the telling of it, it was so beautifully put together. Like, welling up a bit thinking about it. It's just like, it was just the way they did it. Really, really nice. Like, I mean, we know they're good storytellers, but I think that particular segment showed to me just the level of
emotional intelligence.
Yeah, and just the editing and everything, and obviously the fact they'd overlaid the previous footage of him, and then walking into the race course and stuff. It was just like, it was so nice. And it doesn't matter how many times you try, that you are not going to get a better tribute than that to anybody, you know. So I just thought it was very, very powerful, very, very moving, and it was a very, very it was quite a nice juxtaposition with everything else that was going on, with you kind of having to deal with the sort of putting aside of sentimentality with the players that were leaving, and with Rob having not made the final cut of several movies for like 6 or 7 years of his, you know, fledgling sort of acting career. And then you had this, and it was just like, we kind of knew it was coming, but the way it was delivered, and it was just beautiful. It was just beautiful. It's without doubt for me one of the best things I've ever seen committed to a piece of television. I just think it was wonderful.
It was a perfect tribute, like you said there, about whether it's I think you summed it up really nice there, Tim, where if you wanted to show somebody what Welcome to Wrexham is, that's perfect. And a case in point in that, there's somebody who I know through work who has no interest in Wrexham, no interest in football really, and they sent me a DM on Twitter saying they'd watched the documentary and they were just in tears at that, all about the tribute that was paid to Arthur. Andy as well, that the fact that obviously you get Julie and Jackie on there, Lee Jones is on there, and you get to see the next generation. Arthur's great grandchild. No, grandchild. Lee Jones is now a granddad. Sorry, Jonah, if you're listening, but Lee Jones is a granddad. And it's just nice to see just again the sentiment of the fans are always there. Yes, we unfortunately will lose some along the way, and it's always horrible. But the fans are always there with the club coming through. There's always new fans coming along. There's always new generations. There's been so many generations of Wrexham fans over the decades, and yeah.
I mean, can I just say one thing about Lee Jones? So when he did our live night, he just found out that Arthur had died, and he didn't say anything. He just came in and he just did a great job. He told some great stories, and everyone was really entertained by what he did. And he was dealing with his grandfather dying 1 or 2 days before. So can I just have a big tribute to Lee Jones? I mean, we all know he's a great fella. Like a lot like what we were saying about Gaz Owen last week. You know, Lee is that same sort of person, isn't he? Very humble, but very, very good and you know, you grow up with these heroes and then you meet them and they're just as good in real life as you want them to be. And I think Jonah and Gaz Owen are in that same sort of ilk. One thing I did think was very interesting. Do you see that they put that slide up of how much they paid for everyone?
Yes,
And they
that's the
said
first
these are
time.
reported fees. There's no way that Sean Harvey is going to let them have anything but other than what we actually did pay for them.
Well, it was 2.02 for Sam Smith, which was very specific, I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
so
I think
like 2 million and 20 grand.
yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it was. So it was just too again, yeah, it was too specific not to be accurate in my view.
Mofile 590 was it?
Yeah, which was confirmed by McLean, wasn't it, at the Ben Foster Fozcast event at the William Aston. So yeah, maybe an actual insight there.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that was quite interesting that they would put those figures out there. Mofile, look, everyone says that we've not seen enough for him yet, but I do sort of think we have to underline that there's potential there, and I think we've got enough time for him to grow a little bit. Because if you pay a club record fee for someone and it's 3 years ago, then you need that player to deliver straight away. But we're in a different position now where we can actually afford to let signings grow a little bit. I still think there's more to come from Mo. I really do. I don't think anyone's really writing him off yet. Andrew, what do you think?
I say grow a little bit. He's what, 6'5" already.
No, you know what I mean? It's like
I know.
I mean, he's not ready yet, is he? He's not ready yet.
No, it's just it was that, like you said, it's that whole thing of we're so used to. I mean, we were used to for the longest period of basically no transfer fees ever being involved in players coming in.
Absolutely not.
And so when all of us,
Craig Skinner, remember that we thought he was going to be a world beater.
Craig Skinner was a world beater. Don't be dissing Skins. I will defend that man until my dying breath. But yeah, it is when you hear record transfer at Wrexham, you expect somebody to come in and set the world alight because we've not had the pot to piss in. So when we're spending 590 grand on somebody, then you're expecting them to come in. But it is, again, it's the old Wrexham head in me. We are at different times, and I mean that was something that came into it. Liam, just to go to you on this, it came into the latest episode of Anything's Possible, as it was called, the fifth episode of the fourth season. That came into it, the strikers, and the fact that Paul Mullin was not firing. Ollie Palmer was not firing. Jack Marriott at this point in time is just coming back from his injury. Mo Farah wasn't really touched upon, I don't remember, but Stephen Fletcher is the one that was getting the goals, but we're relying on a 37-year-old striker who can only realistically do maybe half an hour a push at the end of a game. What do you make of that element of the episode, and also how it tied into Birmingham? Because I think spinning from the emotion of Arthur and the story of Arthur to then kind of parlaying that into the Birmingham home game, it was just the episode was just so well constructed, I thought.
They were tickling our balls a bit with the striker situation because if you go on the there's a website called Futon Critic, which lists all the upcoming episodes, and that's basically confirms that it'll go heavily into the Mullin Palmer situation, because at first I was thinking they were going to go into it in this episode, and it was like they'd show Mullin standing in the corridor or whatever, looking on thoughtfully into the distance and that type of thing. So it was well constructed, because it's preparing us for next week. I'm just intrigued to see how much they actually do go into it. I mean, are we going to see Mullin and Palmer on screen, like sort of a one-to-one, having a conversation with, just one of them each individually on screen, chatting properly about what actually has happened and how they feel? Will it get glossed over a bit? I don't know. It's you hear so many rumors, don't you, about how each one felt about it. I'm just intrigued.
You know why it will get glossed over? Because
why?
we went up.
Yeah.
And that's the key thing, isn't it? Because however much we loved those two, and they were great together, and they definitely got us out of the non-league, and they probably got us out of League Two. We went up because Sam Smith scored brilliant goals when they were needed, and I think that's probably what has made this a little bit of an easier conversation. Say we didn't go out of League One last season, then not playing Palmer and Mullin is a tough thing to discuss. But really and truly, we went up, and it does sort of seem to me that there is a passing of the torch now. I think all of us, every single one of us, does not think that Ollie Palmer is going to play in the Championship next season. All of us are quite hoping that Paul Mullin will have some sort of role to play, just because what he's done for us in the past. And do we think he's a better bet than Jack Marriott? Tim, do you think he's a better bet than Jack Marriott?
I'm dramatic pause.
Dead air is a crime.
No, I just think I know what they've done. I know we're kind of coming to it now about the whole Mullin cliffhanger. I can't remember what the actual line was, or like some stories are still being written. I think it was something like that. The romantic idea is he will get a full preseason, and he'll come out the traps flying, and he'll score goals in the Championship. We all want to see it. The argument is he's done it against Coventry and Sheffield United in cup games, so the ability is there to do that. The realistic aspect says to me, where and at what opportunity does this arise? It only arises maybe in the event that something happens to Smith or Rodriguez, and in similar vein that's happened to him, where you get injured during preseason. That's the only time I see that happening. And yeah, it's a weird one. Because we had a fair bit, didn't we, on that particular segment from the pod. I got my EastEnders dum-dums moment, which I couldn't believe it. Like, that's football. Sounded really, really harsh. But was
that edited a bit, do you think?
I don't know, but I don't think it was. I don't think it, even if it was, I don't think it was taken out of any real great context. Because
no, it wasn't. No. But it was quite sort of choppy, and
all we're doing is calling it how everybody else is seeing it. It's like we want him to be back in, and we want him to be firing all cylinders, but for whatever reason, it didn't happen for him last season. Parky's gambled. He's had to gamble. If we were 11th, 12th, probably didn't need to gamble as much, but where we were, it's like kind of a shit or bust situation with getting to Championship. So, yeah,
with the ice cream man's
I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but I think it's all safe to say we want to see Mullin come back and be in full flow. But regardless of whether that's here or somewhere else, I just genuinely don't know.
I mean, I would love him to come back. I really would. And I know what you're saying, that look, he did very well against Sheffield United. He did very well against Coventry. Is that him stepping up when he needs to in a very high profile game? And can he do that 40 games a season? And you know what I mean by that, don't you? So the very best players are able to do it consistently. There's a lot of players in lower league football who can step it up every now and again, and it might be a cup game where they just look brilliant, and you think, why the hell is this player not in the Championship or Premier League? but it's hard to do that 40 times a season. Mullin was very good against Coventry, especially very good against Coventry. And we all thought there, well, we've got a player who can come with us for the next 4 or 5 seasons. I'm just not really sure that he's going to get the minutes to allow him to fulfill that potential. And what I mean by that is, in League Two, we needed him to come and rescue us, to help us up, and we didn't have really anyone else, did we? And
In
we
football
gave,
terms, a
we
lot's
gave him
happened.
the minutes to do it. I just don't think he's going to get the minutes to play himself back into form, if you know what I mean.
A lot's happened, and we keep referring back to this episode of Welcome to Wrexham, which I think personally was my favourite so far. In that you kind of got to try and dispense with sentimentality where possible, and I think they've handled the situation of Mullin and Palmer essentially getting bombed out of the side. I think they handled it quite sensitively. To be fair, they've not really said, "Off you go. Here are these lads." They've done it in a way that says, "Well, it was needed." They weren't really quite firing. Didn't really quite work as it has done in previous seasons. It's not a bad thing. It's not criticism. That's just the way things are. So I still think there's going to be a striker coming in.
Oh, there will be. I think there definitely will be. I mean, in terms of the documentary, I think we will hear from Paul Mullin. Maybe we hear from Mullin Palmer. I think it's called for to. I mean, obviously, the first couple of seasons with Moles, there was a lot shot at his house where he'd just be sat around talking, chewing the fat, talk about his story, his family story, his football career, his Wrexham journey. And I think we will get that at some point. I just think where we are at this point in the documentary in regards to where we were in the season at that point, I don't think it'd be the appropriate time to sit him down and interview him in January and say, right, Paul, what do you think about your lack of chances? I think that's something you don't want to bring up with the player from a documentary perspective, at least, until when the games are played, rather than potentially impacting that player if he were to start playing, and maybe it's in the back of his head. So I think we will hear from Moles. I think we will hear from Ollie. But it was left with that cliffhanger where, as you touched on, Tim, I can't remember, it was some stories are still being written or some chapters are still being written. I can't remember the exact parlance used, but it was, if you didn't know how Wrexham got on this past season, you're seeing that it was almost like to go the whole Deadpool route. It was almost like the Marvel, like, kind of mid-credits teaser at the end that you get, where if you aren't familiar with how things turned out this season, you're expecting Paul Mullin now for the next 3 episodes, he's gonna be bang on fire. He's gonna be scoring the goals. He's gonna be back in the team. He's gonna be getting us promoted. And obviously that wasn't the case. So it'll be interesting to see how they get on with this story for the rest of the season. But I think we've talked about this episode of Welcome to Wrexham enough, so we should move on.
Well, can I just pick up on one thing that I thought they did
absolutely
really nicely, and sort of classy touch was people get quite passionate at the football, and when Andy Gilpin went on the pitch after James McLean, the fact that they blurred his face out when he went on the pitch at Shrewsbury, that was really, really good of them. They didn't have to do that.
You know what? I was even in Egypt, and I had to get a plane all the way back just to chase him off the pitch.
And it was either going to be you or Nate Salt. It was one of you.
God, how many times do I have to say this? I thought McLean had his better season for us last season.
Oh, not a good season, just a better one. Okay, I see.
Right. I mean, he's 36. I mean, obviously he's got so much experience, and I think as a model professional, he is worth so much to us, because the other players are looking at him going, right, I need to be as good as him. I need to run as much as him. I need to be as much of a leader as he is. All right. And so for that, I think he's invaluable. Do I think he's a great left wing back? And do I think he'll be a great left wing back in the Championship? I'm going to have to be honest, no. But I do think he has a lot to play. He has a very big part to play next season.
Right. Well, we are going to stick with you, Gilpo, because you're taking the lead on this next segment. So good luck with that after a day on the beer in Pennakai.
I'm in Raben. I was in Raben, so.
Oh, okay. So you went out to Raben and then back to Pennakai.
Yeah.
Did you go to the bridge?
Yeah, I did go to the bridge, actually. Yeah.
An exceptional pub there. Obviously not as good as our sponsors, to Fat Boar and all those names I'm not going to go into. But yes, the story this week, I think it was originally reported by Bloomberg, of Rob and Ryan potentially
Bloomberg are writing about Wrexham.
Yeah, which is
can we just sort of take that in for a little bit?
Yeah. The story was that Rob and Ryan potentially selling a hefty stake in the club. I mean, the numbers being thrown around, like £350 million, the equivalent of $475 million. Internal talks supposedly to raise capital to compete in the championship. Gilpo, take it away.
I mean, yeah, you sort of think about that figure and you go, wow, 350 million. But then you sort of like think about, right, it's the turnover, isn't it? So if you can do 27 million in League Two, what can you do in the Championship? Probably another 15 million on top of that. Liam, you're quite good with your figures. I think that's the bare minimum you can sort of think towards, isn't it?
So Bloomberg, they said for this season in League One, the bare minimum that is expected turnover wise is 30 million. Top end
Yeah.
is 40 million. So again, take that up again for championship level. So yeah.
I mean, the one thing that was sort of striking for me is you would think that the Allens were coming in to safeguard us for the next couple of seasons at least. And for them to like still think that they need another investor, I think it shows how seriously they're taking the championship. Because I think they're going to try and do it again, aren't they? I think that is probably what they're looking towards. Did anyone see the Les Reed article that was this week? I thought that was more interesting, to be honest, because Les Reed said they're going to look towards 20 something proven championship players rather than what we thought last week, which was Premier League players on high wages coming down and maybe having a one last hurrah. And I think I sort of remember when Portsmouth went up under Harry Redknapp. It was probably the early noughties, and I think they were a Paul Merson sort of inspired team, but there was a lot of aging Premier League players who came down to get them up there. And I actually thought that's what Wrexham were going to do this season, because I thought if you sort of think about the balance of the squad, so you've got some players who are coming up from non-league. So if you're asking how can you make those players into Premier League players or something that can get up to the Premier League, maybe you do need 4 or 5 great sort of Premier League players who are coming in for one last sort of dance. Who knows what happens when you get to the Premier League, but it doesn't matter because we're there. And so I thought it was a bit surprising that they were going for proven championship players, because does that raise the level of the squad that much? If you're going for like run of the mill championship players, is still 20 grand a week. But do you know what I mean? It's like if you're taking the core basis of our squad and adding some championship experience, is that going to really elevate us in sort of like the playoff places? I don't know.
I think we'll see the balance, as we have throughout the time with Park. There's this perception that we are a retirement home for aging footballers, but actually, if you look at the age profile of the squad, it's a bit more balanced than people would have you believe. Look at the players, some of the players that were in that team on the last day of the season. We had Conquo in goal, Max centre back. We had Longman was on the pitch. Even the likes of Rathbone and Sam Smith, they're not ancient dinosaurs, but what Parky does like is to have that balance of experience and youth. So I think you could still see a couple of players coming down from the Premier League, but at the same time, he's looking. If we're looking to take the best from other teams in the Championship, I don't think that's a bad approach. I mean, I know we'll go on to transfers later, but one mentioned was Blackburn's captain Lewis Travis. That perhaps that's the sort of profile of signing that Reed was talking about. So yeah, I think we'll see again. We might see that. A couple of those sort of superstars signings, but it's not going to be a squad full of them, is what I would guess.
Just one more thing on that 350 million valuation. So if they are looking to bring in another investment, they were very, very careful about the Allen family to a degree that you knew they were going to add something not just to the club, but to the community as a whole. Can you afford to be so choosy with your next big investment? Would it sometimes just be an investment bank?
The interesting one on that was when we obviously we had Ryan Reynolds came and joined us for a bit of a chat on the pod. Was it last month? And and he said that basically that the chances of finding a multi-billionaire who's basically not an arsehole and genuinely means well for a community and a football club in this case are like slim to none. So with the Allens, we really looked out. That's like the tiny percentage of those sort of people. So yeah, I mean, could you find somebody else to fit that same profile again? I don't know, but then it is then it starts to become a bit more corporate. But then as we're going up the football ladder, that's where it does become a bit more corporate, and it is more about just the ins and outs of business. So you can't necessarily be too choosy about who comes in and out. I don't know. I don't know.
Tim, is the profile of Wrexham at the moment that there are people who may not be hedge funds, who may not be like just very sort of stoic investment bankers, who would come in and look at Wrexham and go, right, I want to get involved in that.
Well,
And
a
what
name
I
that
mean,
keeps cropping up, you've already mentioned, Andy, a couple of weeks back, the Remington Group, who were involved with Ryan Reynolds in the attempted purchase of the Ottawa Senators. I wonder if that's the sort of people that we might see. There is a pre-existing relationship there. He was happy to go in with them on that. Ultimately, it wasn't successful, but the name's cropped up too many times for me to think there's not a possibility that it would be a group like that. I've got to be honest, I haven't done a great deal of homework on the Remington Group, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it's someone like that.
Right, that dead ass chest. We're moving on to other topics. The next topic would be the TST tournaments, which I believe the finals are tonight, as we're recording this on Sunday. Now, for the TST Wrexham Red Dragons men team that was out there, they got knocked out in the round of 32, came second in their group, then went out 6-2 to Drip FC. The women were knocked out in the group stage, lost all three games, and with a minus goal difference minus 9 goal difference. And the one clip I did see was poor Mia Roberts, friend of the pod, Mia Roberts. Shout out to Robbo, just getting a brutal kind of knee to the face/torso, and it's like, oh, jeez. Anybody keep up with any of the TSD? Have we been watching any of it, Liam?
Yeah, I've been watching. I watched it pretty religiously. It would just crop up. I kept getting alerts like YouTube lives, and I would just be like, "Oh, it's 12 o'clock in the UK. I don't, and it's this 7v7 friendly. I won't do that." And then I'd end up watching the whole thing. Yeah, it's an interesting one because some of the reaction to it, some people have been genuinely peed off that the both sides got knocked out. It's like, are we taking this seriously? And I'm like, I'm not. It's just a bit of fun. I just,
Yeah.
I'm like many people. I get a bit bored without the football, so I'll literally watch anything that's on. George Boyd played pretty well again. Mark Albrighton, pretty decent. A lot of these teams that are doing well though are you sort of like a futsal style type of teams. Used to smaller sided games, play together quite regularly. I get the impression, or have done in advance of this. So yeah, it's been a good aside. Michael Williamson was there, Sean Harvey was there. Just trying to think who else was spotted. A few faces from the club. I noticed you and the kit man was there,
Yeah.
getting on the holiday. So yeah, it's just been a nice little diversion, really. I know people are going about the $1 million prize fund and stuff like that, but I don't think we're relying on that for our transfer signings, to be honest. So
no, I
No.
mean, look, the first sort of season they did it, it was very interesting to me because it was more or less a Wrexham All Stars. But then I sort of thought that maybe they were looking at it and going, right, can we actually win this, or can we actually go quite far in this? And I think they had to sort of jettison that idea a little bit and maybe go with some different sort of ways. I mean, the keeper, for example, this season, he was a Brazilian lad, wasn't it? So Mark Howard didn't get a look in. It was a guy they picked up quite late on, and I think that's just because it's a different way to play football. I think we're a big draw there. I think we'll carry on playing
Yeah.
there. I think really and truly we're not anywhere close to winning it, though, are we?
Well, I mean, to put into context, I did see some clips doing the rounds, and there's one team that had Sergio Aguero up front banging in goals, and we had Jake Hyde, which no disrespect to Jake Hyde, he did score a few goals, but it's if you're looking at who's going to win the tournament, there's a little bit of a difference there. But it's Yeah, it's an interesting tournament for me. It brings more eyes to the club. So yeah, and we don't take it too seriously. I think as players and as fans. And in terms of the Chomp, I think obviously I don't think Mark Howard went because he'd be looking for a club because he said he wants to go and play football still. But I was a little bit surprised, and maybe it will happen next year, that Ben Foster, it's the sort of thing that it seems like Fozzie would absolutely love, but for whatever reason, it's not been a thing. Right, let's move on as we quickly try and get this wrapped up. There's some transfers to talk about still, and a few other bits and bobs in Wales. But just a quick mention here as well. A shout out to Lily Jones and Abby Iddenden from Wrexham Women, who got into the Adron Premier Team of the season. That was announced a couple of days ago, and there's I think the awards is tonight, or was it last night? Possibly. So yeah, big congratulations to those two. Abby, 17 goals in 20 starts, no comps, 9 goals, 9 assists in 15 league starts. Player of the season, of course, for us. Lily getting young player of the season and goal of the season for that scream against TNS. So yeah, big shout out to Lily and Abby in there. Transfers though, the one name. I mean, what? I guess we'll go first.
He's got the phone.
Leave it to the pros.
I like to move it. I like to move it. You like to move it. I like to.
There we are.
Done. Right.
Perfect.
I guess we'll before we get into who we might sign, I guess we'll start with one who the fish that got away. I guess Tim, we'll come to you on this one. Obviously, last week and a few times already since the season ended, we talked about potentially maybe Ben Davis was international, of course. Tottenham for 11 seasons, Swansea before that, still only 32 years of age. And there was supposedly concrete interest, but Tottenham have gone and pissed on our chips by triggering a 1-year contract extension. So Ben Davis will be with Spurs until at least the summer of 2026. Tim, thoughts on this one?
He's got no ambition, is he? I mean,
Champions League football.
he signed the contract and he doesn't even know what manager's going to be playing him. So,
well, no, he did. By all accounts, I don't think he signed it. It was just Tottenham had like an option to extend it by a year, and they triggered that extension.
Yeah, they took their time with it. But you want Wales' best players operating at the highest level, and he continues to do that. And it's not a great surprise he signed for him. Even if he hadn't, he would have remained there. There's no way he's dropping down as much as that's wishful thinking. It's just not going to happen. He's too good. He's too good, too reliable at that level. So you watch 6 months when they've got a manager who doesn't fancy him and he's had about 3 starts, then maybe he could be loaned out to a Wrexham team hovering in around the playoff picture. Who knows?
I mean, if the rumours are true that Thomas Frank is supposedly the front runner, I think he's a sort of manager that would value a Ben Davis. So I don't know. We'll see on that. But
Don't trust him.
Fantastic.
No, I don't trust him. Thomas Frank.
Oh, because he's got the two first names.
First names, yeah. Don't trust him.
You like Germans? Come on.
Yeah.
Right, Andy, we'll stick with you on that one while Liam composes himself. Tommy Doyle is another name that's been in doing the news rounds this week. This came from Team Talk. Kind of touched on it earlier. 23 years of age. Is this what
Team Talk? Did you
I know, exactly.
phone up an 0800 number?
All right, Mr. Daily Star. Which fish cake has been eaten by some Alsatian this week? I don't know.
That's a bad...
Tommy Doyle sounds like a Grange Hill character.
That's Thomas the Tank Engine. Jesus,
that is
close
right,
enough.
Close
But
enough.
yeah, Tommy Doyle, Wolves, 23-year-old midfielder, central midfielder, 23 Premier League starts last season, 26 the season before. Came from Manchester City, England under 21 international. I don't know, and this has been doing the rounds a little bit in the last couple of days. I don't know if there's anything in it because I take Team Talk with a little bit of a pinch of salt. But in terms of stories all right.
I mean, I'm sorry, Team Talk I've not thought about for 25 years.
All right.
All I would
You're
say
thinking club call, aren't you?
I mean, yeah, definitely club call. All I would say there is, look, if you are looking at what Les Reed was saying earlier, then Tommy Doyle fits in that sort of bracket, doesn't he? So he's a younger midfielder, a bit more energy, and you put Travis in that as well. It's a little bit different from your Ericssons or your Susos, who was the person I was trailing.
Oh, now you can
just drop that in there.
Yeah,
it's fine. It's fine now.
Is Suso not happening then, or
he's gone to Cadiz, I think. So.
Tommy Doyle's middle name is Glyn, so he's practically Welsh. So sign him.
Okay,
I'd go with that.
but you know, but all I'm thinking there is maybe when you bring a player like that in, they're not as suited. Sorry, it takes longer for them to bed in than it would like a Premier League player who's 31, 32. They can fit in quite easily, but it might take a bit of time for your Travis or your Doyle to sort of fit in.
I mean, Doyle is a Premier League player who started 23 games
totally.
last season.
I'd be more, but he's not Ericsson, and he's not, he's not that sort of level of name, is he? Because I've just had to look him up.
But in terms of fitting in, would Ericsson fit into a Phil Parkinson team if that did happen? I think that'd take a little bit more. I don't know, a bit of bedding in, and also Tommy Doyle, of course, one of the child survivors of the very first Halloween, John Carpenter's iconic 1978 movie, one of my favorites of all time.
So
I
didn't think of that.
Do you know how much? Do you know how much Wolves paid for him?
I'm not sure.
4.3 million quid.
I'm sorry. Yeah, if you're paying that much for him and he's starting for you, you're not going to let him go for any less than that.
Who are you to doubt team talk, Andy Gilpin? That's all I'm saying.
I mean,
the other one that's still lingering, like a Winnet. Google that if you get a second. Is Danny Ings again doing the rounds this week? Obviously, I'm not sure he's been let go by West Ham or he's about to be let go. Either way, he's not going to be at West Ham next season. I think his contract's up until the end of the month. I think 33 in July. Southampton, Liverpool, Aston Villa, Burnley, England. A whopping 2 goals in the last 2 seasons in all competitions for West Ham. 5 goals in the last 3 seasons. And ourselves and Watford, supposedly 2 teams in the frame for him. Liam, anything on this one?
Other than to say that I think availability is a big strength for anyone that we're going to sign, and unfortunately, I mean, Danny Ings in his prime is obviously a no-brainer, but I just wonder, are we going to sign a striker who's potentially not going to be available that often for us? Because his injury record in recent seasons has been really poor. I wonder if it's just one of those where we're being linked because it's a big name and they're free.
Yeah. And Andy, to go back to you, we start looking at the other side of the coin, potential outgoings, because obviously we've got players who the end of their contracts come and we've not renewed, but we still have players under contract who, there are going to be some people, it's the nature of the beast that are not going to be here next season. When do you think we start seeing some movement on that, and who's kind of the front runners in that one in your head that come to mind as in, right, well, they'll be gone. And again, it comes down to finding buyers for him.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think there is that, but I think the contracts don't run out until June the 30th, Liam.
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah.
So I think it won't be anything until then. If I'm absolutely being honest, the amount of wages we're paying the likes of Ollie Palmer and things like that probably means that they could probably just stay on the playing staff. It's not like we have to buy them out to get them out at all. It's not like they're on 40, 50 grand a week and we need to open up that wages. So I wouldn't think there would be a huge sort of exodus of players, even when it reaches June the 30th. I think what will probably happen is they'll start the season and the likes of Elliot Palmer and Ollie Palmer
Elliot Palmer, not Ollie Palmer. The Palmer twins up front, is it?
Yeah, but the likes of Elliot Lee will see if they're getting anywhere near in and around the squad, and then maybe make a decision after that.
You're desperate to get rid of Elliot Lee, aren't you?
I'm not.
You mentioned it last week. You were booting him out straight away.
I think he's done very well for us, but I do think that it's going to be very tough for him to be a starter in the Championship. I really do. And I mean that in the nicest way, but it's like he's the wrong side of 30. He's tenacious and he did very well for the first part of this season, but then he fell away a little bit. And I do sort of think that Parky wanted a more dynamic dogs of war midfield, and I don't think Elliot Lee was part of that, and I don't see that changing anytime soon.
I mean, he is 30. I don't know if that's the wrong side of 30.
Well, yeah, but he's not like 25, is he?
No, he's not. And I agree that, if there's an upgrade out there for the Championship, then that will be brought in. I think that will be a position Parky's looking at. But I think Elliot Lee's.
Sorry?
Charlie Savage is is a name that's.
I think he's definitely looking for an attacking mid. I really do.
Is
Yeah,
Charlie
and-
Savage, if we're going, to the Championship, is Charlie Savage, who had an okay season, a decent season for Reading in League One, is that what we should be looking at?
Tim,
There's a
you've seen him a
sentimentality
bit.
there, obviously.
You've seen him a bit at Wales and stuff. Do you think Charlie Savage is good enough?
Yes, I do. I mean, he hasn't featured a great deal for Wales in recent times, but he's kind of reminds me a bit like sort of a younger version of Andy Cannon, I guess.
Yeah.
That's probably the nearest thing I could say in terms of combative, all action, gets stuck in, not afraid to shirk a challenge, as you'd expect coming from Savage stock. So I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, Reading, obviously, the situation has changed there now, where they're not really, having to sell the sort of crown jewels. But it'll be interesting because, again, the lure of the club is there. The fact that he has roots here, it's quite funny. I think it was about 12 months ago. I said, "Well, there's rumours Charlie Savage has come in," and I put in the tweet, his nan still lives locally, and I got absolutely rinsed for it. So I was like, well, the geography works because his nan lives locally. But, family's family. So who knows? I think it would be a smart signing. I do, because he's still not yet in his prime. And he will want to push on in a very, very well-watched shop window, which is exactly what we are now. And if we want players stepping up and representing Wales, which I certainly do, and I'm sure there's others that feel the same way, then what better way than to get one who's been in and around that squad anyway and is looking to push on?
I don't know if the qualities. I think if this was a signing we were talking about last summer for League One, I'd have been all ears. And well, I talked about it with a few mates. But I think when we go into the Championship and he's had a decent season last season at Reading. It's not like he set the world on fire and was like the standout midfielder of League One. And I just think where we're going to next season and where, some people are crazy enough to look at where we might be going after that. I don't know. I don't know. There is a lot of potential there. He's still young. And it is that sentimentality of, Charlie Savage, his old man being a Wrexham boy. The fact that Charlie himself has said in interviews the last few
He
months
needs to play. I mean, if we're signing him, he needs to play minutes. And that's how he will develop as a player. And I'm not sure that we would have him as a starting Championship midfielder.
Exactly.
And I think that's where the problem is.
That's my point. I mean, we'll quickly move on to Wales. Unless, are there any other Randall roundup bits, Liam?
Just some brief sort of transfer roundups. Tom Kearney has been offered a new deal by Fulham. Still mulling over whether.
That's it. Do we think that's it? And Tim, do you think that's it? Do you think he'll stay there?
Yeah, I don't see it. I think he's he's very well liked at Fulham. He enjoys his life there. I think it's the same with anything. You uproot an entire family to pastures new. It's not as if he's not been getting game time either. So no. I can't see how why would he? If he's wanted there and he knows he's going to get game time, then he stays. Fulham have had a really good season. They're going to be looking to build on that.
I mean, it's an interesting thought is of we all of a sudden for certain players become that kind of like leverage, that bargaining tool where, like say in the instance of Tom Kearney, I don't know, maybe we end up bringing him in, who knows? But, if he just goes, Wrexham are interested and I really fancy that, all of a sudden Fulham, it's their captain and they're like, well, no, we really want you to stay. You played a lot this season. You're a great influence in the dressing room. We don't want to lose you. You can't go to oil money Wrexham, as it were, to coin a phrase from that Carlisle fan. Maybe that's like we've become like a bargaining chip with not just Premier League players, but maybe some Championship players. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a chance, isn't there? I think because from the sound of it, I think he was perhaps frustrated that it's been left so late in the day to decide on his contract, and then lo and behold, not long after these reports emerge, he gets the offer. So there is definitely that theory. Just a couple of others to round up. Les Reed, I don't know if Andy mentioned it before actually, but Jamie Vardy, very much not in our reach. Perhaps no surprises there, given the wages he's on. He could be earning 100 odd K wherever he goes, really, couldn't he? So we're not offering that much, I don't think. And then just one final one. Sam Dolby to Bolton is apparently a deal which is moving close. Interested just quickly to hear how you think he'd get on in League One. Just throw it open to the floor.
If he plays, I think he scores. I think it's very important for a striker to go and have that golden period And, Gary Bennett had his golden period at Wrexham and his stock flew because he was confident. He knew that he could score goals. And I think Dolby going away to Dundee United and having that golden season where he started it brilliantly, maybe it tailed off a little bit towards the end, but that doesn't matter. I think he thinks of himself now as a striker who can score goals, and that's important in a striker's mind. And I think if he goes to Bolton, he starts. He has 10 games because he's the big marquee signing, and I think that's up to him after that. And I think he's probably turned the corner a little bit by just going away to the Scottish Premier League and doing so well.
Yeah, I think that Dundee United move was the loan was just massive for Dolbs. I'm half surprised a little bit that maybe Rangers didn't come in, not necessarily Celtic, but you thought maybe if you're Rangers, maybe take a punt. But I did an event with to name drop him in there, Parky, Phil Parkinson, a little while ago, and he was talking about Sam Dolby, and he said the intelligence is there. You don't need to tell him any instructions. Whereas he did drop in Ollie Palmer saying, Ollie, you've got to tell him where to go, who to close down, when to make a run. It's like with Dolby, you have none of that. Parky just wished that Dolby had the confidence of Ollie, the arrogance of Ollie. And you're thinking if he's gone to Scotland and he's had the season he's had, where he's got the goals he's got, and he's got big goals in big games against the old firm there, and you're thinking maybe now that gives him that confidence, that belief that he can go on and crack on with Bolton. And yeah, if that is where he ends up, then yeah, best of luck to Dobbs. I think if he gets if he, as Andy kind of mentioned there, if you bring him in as the big the big star signing, sorry, who has to start those first 10, 15 games because he's the big name, I think he'll absolutely thrive. And yeah, best wishes to him because by all accounts, just seems like a lovely fella, and he has some really massive moments for us over the seasons he was here.
That is unanimous. That silence signals unanimous agreement with.
Probably one of the longest dead airs we've ever had on this.
Yeah, I was waiting for Tim to chime in there, but okay.
I don't know what to say. I mean, I'm still.
Tim hates Sam Dolby.
No, I don't hate him. I'm not convinced he's going to score double figures for Bolton. I hope he proves me wrong. I don't know. And it's hard to say because we can all sit here and question the quality of the Scottish Premier League, but I don't see enough of it to really justify that argument. To be honest, it's easy to go, oh, it's always Rangers and Celtic, and maybe a third will come along to upset that monopoly. But at the end of the day, he's gone up. It's worked out for him really, really well. He deserves his move off the back of that alone. So he's gone from Southend to playing what looks going to be a big hitter for League One next year. They're going to have to go for it, Bolton, because that's such a poor season that this one just gone. So it would be good to see him in a team like Bolton and the focal point. And if you give him service, he's good in the air. I think he's better in the air than what he is with his feet. I'm not taking away from the fact that he's quite good with his feet, but aerial prowess is where it's at for him. I think if in a weird way, if the Fletcher move hadn't come off, I think Derby probably gets you maybe 4 or 5 of those goals. I genuinely think he's really good in the air. So it will be interesting to see how he gets on. And the fact of the matter is we'll all be keeping tabs on him, as we do with a lot of the former players now. Any player who's been here during this golden period, doesn't matter how big of an impact they've had in terms of minutes, they're all heroes, they're all legends, they're all part of that set. And if he ever comes back, he'll never have to put his hand in the pocket for a drink. So good luck, Samuel.
The Milky Bars are on, Tim. Right. Unless there's any other bits, Liam, or are we getting on to our final segment? Right. Which is, because this has gone longer than I thought it was going to go. Wales. Quick touch on Wales. Obviously, Wales beat Liechtenstein 3-0 on Friday. Tim Zed, Joe Roden, Harry Wilson, and Kiefer Moore with the goals. An expected win, a solid win, but then the attention spins to Belgium away, which, as we're recording this, tomorrow. So there's no point lingering too long on Belgium because a lot of people will hear this and it'll be out of date. But Tim, you're our home and away Wales fan. How was it on Friday, and realistically, what are you expecting for against Belgium?
Friday was very, very strange because obviously it was utter dominance against a very, 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 very bad football team. Liechtenstein, very poor. They're very, very, I think it was 208th or something like that. The world rankings really, really low down. So patience was key. I can't remember what the passing stats were, but it was outrageous. But it was a really boring first half. It was just a bit I don't know. Side to side, probing a little bit, but not really asking too many questions. I mean, their keeper had a brilliant game. He won't have many better games than that. He was
I thought you talked about your sexual technique there, Tim, for a second. Probing side to side, asking questions. But,
well, yeah, now and again. And ultimately got the job done. We got the job done. It was always going to happen. It was just about waiting for your moments. A similar thing to what's happened with Parky in recent years. You can dominate a game, and you just got to have that belief that when you break that sort of door down, you can just steam in there and get a few more. And we've done that. And I'm excited with Bellamy. He's been in charge a year already now. He hasn't lost a game. We're stubborn. We're belligerent. I like him as a manager in terms of how he's simmered down. He's much more approachable, much more likable than what he probably was as a player. He was much more volatile back then. Very humble, very grounded, very diligent. He's a sucker for the tactics and all that sort of side of the game. And I'm genuinely excited for what the future holds for Wales, because he's making this team really tough to beat, and he's making this team believe that they can go out and beat anybody. And I genuinely think we've got a really good chance of going to Belgium tomorrow and winning, because Belgium are not the team they once were. We've become a bit of a bogey team to them over the years. And I just genuinely think we're going to have a go. Bellamy said that he's not going to go there and camp. He wants to go there, attack. And why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you want to do that? Just show what we're trying to achieve, show what he's trying to mold Wales into becoming, which is never going to be a superpower, but we can be a team that can be formidable on the world stage, And I think that's where he wants us to be, not these pushovers of yesteryear, not these people who just have little moments, which we've had under Coleman, a little bit under Rob Page, and a little bit under Gary Speed. And he's put in building blocks for a side that I've not seen so much confidence in a team probably since the Euros, in terms of genuine belief of every time they set foot on the pitch, they believe they're going to win the game. It's as simple as that. And that stems from the manager and that entire backroom team. So I'm excited. I'm going to say we're going to go there and we're going to win. And because Belgium are just not the team they were. But you know what? If we don't win, then so what? It's the first defeat in 10 games, whatever it is. So it's not a free hit, but we're top of the group and we're looking very, very, very handily placed for another World Cup. So we'll see.
Tim, can I ask two things? They're both about transfers, actually. So Kiefer Moore's been a name that's linked to us a few times, mostly because Parky likes to play with a target man. Do you think Kiefer Moore would be an astute signing for us? And also, can I ask you what you think about Aaron Ramsey moving to the Mexican side today?
Yeah, not that one.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So let's do Kiefer Moore. I think he's great. He plays to his strengths. He's massive. Head from heaven, 6'7", feed me till I'm Kiefer Moore, as the song goes. He's just a really, really good target man. It's as simple as that. He holds the ball up well. He's good in the air. In a strange way, I think he's become even more confident by being part of the Welsh setup. He's come in, and at the time, Rob Page kind of centered the attack around him. You need a big man with a little man dropping off. We all know Parky's similar in that respect. So I would love to see Kiefer Moore in a Wrexham team. I would love it. I think he would bring a lot to proceedings. Similarly to what Fletcher did in terms of the hold-up play. If you're not going to attack it in the air, you're going to bring other players into the game. So very clever footballer. He's probably not going to be given an easy ride by Sheffield United fans now for that misplaced back pass. And they're not going to be happy then. But they should have put that game to bed long before they lost it against Sunderland. It's as simple as that. So don't use him as a scapegoat is what I'd say. But he would be a great signing. I'd love that. Aaron Ramsey, it's time to stop. Hang up your boots. End your playing career gracefully. His body is not up to it. It's not. I mean, he's had more injuries than I can even recount in the last few years. I thought he would have had a chat with Gareth Bale now, and Bale would have said, when your body tells you to stop, you stop. I just worry that he's going to go, I'm going to carry on playing. Instead of stopping at a reasonable part of what's been a very, very distinguished career for Wales and club level, Juventus and so on, Arsenal. I just think it's time to cut your losses and go, look after your body, put more time into your family surroundings, maybe join Bellamy on the Welsh coaching staff, who knows? But yeah, very surprised if that happens, the Mexico thing. It's a very left field move. But if he thinks he knows his body better than anybody else, which I'm sure he does, then good luck to him. I just don't see it. I don't see how he can offer to Wales what he has in the past. Those days are long gone.
Anything else, Andy or Liam, to add on the Wales topic before we get things wrapped up?
No, I think Tim summed it up pretty well there. So no, nice one.
Nice one. There we go. Nice and simple.
That's football.
Brilliant. Yeah. Of course. Before we get things done, go and check out our newsletter. The link is in the description of this. Whether you listen to it on audio, whether you're watching it on YouTube, go and check out the newsletter. Support us that way, or support us by buying us a coffee. Like, subscribe, share. All the algorithms love all that stuff. Thank you to our sponsors: the Fat Boy Mold, Wrexham, Hill Street Social, My Squin Hall, FA's Carnival, the Book, and the Croix Howl. And that is it. We're out of here for another week. Maybe we'll be back in the midweek. If not, we'll be back on Sunday, isn't it, lads?
Yeah, we might be. We might not be. Depends if we can be bothered,
Oh, Gilpo's now thrown up the... there he is. The newsletter comes out as we're about to go home, brother. We're about to get it done, and Andy's thrown up the scam me link.
The audio people are fuming.
Yes. Anyway, and it was only a brief one.
£15 for the year. £15 if you're a new subscriber. Go in, pile into it. It's a good one. It's brewing up to be a good one this week. There's a good little community there. Go and do it.
Why'd you make it sound like you're selling it out of your inside pocket on a market stall then? £15, £15.
No, it's just...
Get a free watch.
Look at Liam. You made Liam laugh. That's not clever. That's not big.
That's lowest common denominator.
To be fair,
making him laugh at my expense.
Right, we are done. Shane Richie Gilpo there is finished. He's okay for the day. We're going to crack on. We're going to get on Ross Sunday evenings because I've been up since 4 a.m. I'm tired, lads. So, right, we'll be back in a week or next week.
Cheers.
See you guys.
Here they come, our mighty champions. Raise your voices.